Hey, what's up going on? This is your Uncle Steve here. Let's take a trip into the Wayback Machine, into your favorite Atlanta Falcons moments in franchise history. Let's go. Hey, what's going on? It is your Unc. It is Monday. It's the Monday Minutia here in Uncle Steve's Lounge. And don't forget to like the video if you like what you see here on Uncle Steve's Lounge. We have a kind of a throwback show today. And I must admit, was probably inspired the other day when we were talking about the Atlanta Falcons of now. And there were a couple of comments in the chat where people were throwing back to the good old days. And well, some good days and some bad days, but back to the good old days and some of their favorite moments in Falcons history. So I said to myself, how about we do that? How about we look back at some of the moments, those moments not only that made you a fan, but those moments that stand out to you in your fandom. While, of course, making the Super Bowl or being in the Super Bowl would probably be on the top of a lot of other folks' lists. But I was looking probably for more moments leading to those. I mean, championship games can count, but more of those moments that not only kind of helped you move into your Falcons fandom, but just those moments that you could just say, you know what, this is the moment that I actually, became a Falcons fan. So I'm really interested to see what a lot of you think and what a lot of you might, be able to come up with. I've come up with a few here on my list. So I want to share my moments with you and see if they match up with some of the best moments that you all had in Atlanta Falcons history as well. I started, and this is really in no order because all of them can really go into the same bag when you think about it. 1978. And this was close to probably the advent of fandom for me as a young, Falcons fan. But that 1978 season, which we were coming off the 1977, the grit splits held everybody in check. We broke all the records for, least points by a defense back when we had a really good defense then. And in 1978, that was when they extended to the 16-game season. So the Falcons that particular year had a game in New Orleans. It was near the end of the year. And again, we were kind of coming close to our first chance to clinch a playoff berth. We were losing the game to Archie Manning and the New Orleans Saints. It was less than a minute left, and we were on probably about the 40. I think it ended up being a 57-yard play, and it became one of the most memorable plays. Oh, I said remember. One of the most memorable plays in Falcon history, and that was Big Ben Wright. Ball gets tipped from out of nowhere. Alfred Jackson runs the ball down the field. There you go. Touchdown. Atlanta wins 20-17. And that 2017 score would kind of rear its heads the next couple of years. If you're familiar with the Atlanta Falcons Saints rivalry, that was a score that stuck around quite a bit. In 1991, one of the years that I was actually a little detached from the Falcons because of my military obligation, but definitely had time enough to watch this particular game. Again, our nemesis, the New Orleans Saints, and the only time that we've actually met in the playoffs, other than the well, no, not other than. That's the only time we met in the playoffs. And Chris Miller hits Michael Haynes 61 yards to go ahead of the Saints 27-20 and kind of secure that game. Most people will remember at the end, Dion had the little interception that they were kind of messing around with and throwing the ball around, and hear Dan Dierdorf in the background. They need to stop playing around. And that's how they just played ball that particular year. But that win there, that was a really signature win in for the Falcons that particular year. The other Minneapolis miracle, I know a lot of people talk about the one with Stephon Diggs against the Saints, which I actually love that one too. But this Minneapolis miracle where if I'm not mistaken, I think the Vikings were 2 touchdown favorites over the Falcons, which was crazy because the Vikings were 15-1 and Atlanta was 14-2. So it was like this foregone conclusion that the Falcons were just going to lay down and not come to play, I guess, in the game. But the Falcons did come to play and made a nice comeback after being down a couple of touchdowns. Took the game to over. First Gary Anderson missed what could have been the game-clinching field goal. Drive down the field. Terrence Mathis catches the touchdown to tie it up. Move back down the field. Falcons go on to win that game and go to their first Super Bowl ever against the Denver Broncos. That was actually a really good moment. Another moment that I remember, 2012 season. That was the year we went 13-3, second time we had done that. And we were going up against the Seattle Seahawks, the upstart Seahawks. The Seahawks, the Legion of Boom, the young edition, because they definitely grew up the next year and beat the slop out of everybody the next year. But that particular game, if you remember, the Falcons way on top. Seattle made a nice comeback, came back, took the lead. And the Falcons with like 20 seconds left or whatever it was. There's a lot of very little time left. 3 passes. Was it 3 passes or 2 passes? 2 passes or 3 passes. Tony Gonzalez gets the last one over the middle. Falcons call timeout. Matt Bryant comes in, hits the field goal. The Falcons win the game and go to their first ever championship game at home that particular season. Went on to, of course, be defeated by the San Francisco 49ers, yet that was our first birth into that. And probably the moment that, for me, is always going to stand out. And I know sometimes when you say memorable moments, you're looking for the close ones, for the moments where, oh my goodness, it was nip and tuck and all of this and all of that. Nah, I'll forever take, up to this point, I will forever take being able to be in the Georgia Dome, the last Falcon game in the Georgia Dome against the Green Bay Packers, where the Atlanta Falcons truly closed the door on the Dome in an awesome style. Matt Ryan has never looked better as a quarterback that game. 4 touchdowns passing, 1 touchdown rushing. I mean, just everything you can check on the list for the Falcons that day. A couple of sacks of Aaron Rodgers, a blowout game. Julio was off the charts. That moment there still sticks in my mind at this moment. Probably my favorite Falcon moment ever. And yes, I was happy during the next 2 weeks when we were up 21-0, but we don't want to go there to that game. But at this time, I still say that's probably my favorite moment in Falcons history, especially through my fandom. So what do y'all think? I'll bring y'all on here and talk about it and see what y'all think about you all's favorite moments. Please make sure you jump in here and let's see what we got here in the chat. We're going to start off with Lyrics Mom. How are you, ma'am? Good to see you tonight. How are you doing? One of my favorite moments was when Morton Anderson kicked the field goal to send us to the Super Bowl. I was about 10. Wow, I'm aging myself at the time, and I remember seeing my pops cry. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you that moment. I was out the military. I was actually at work and going to school at the same time. And that Sunday, that was the tradition. Go to my mom and dad's house sometime for big games. Go and, we have a little spread and stuff like that back in the day, pre-marriage, all that stuff. And we all went there, and I just remember them being by euphoria when they missed that field goal. When Gary Anderson missed that field goal, it was just our household just went crazy. And then turn around, Morton Anderson gets his opportunity, kicks the ball through the uprights. And I just think everybody, me, my brother, my mom, and I think my dad might have been out with the boys or whatever, watching the game or something. But it was definitely one of those moments where it was like, wow, we really did this. So that. Yeah, I can take that. And it is cool, dudes. Hey, tears of joy. I'm sure your pops cried. Absolutely. I remember the only game I've ever had an emotion, it was a sad emotion, was 1980. And I was 11, I think. And we lost to the Dallas Cowboys in, it was 1981, technically, in January of 1981. And we lost the game to the Cowboys at home in Fulton County Stadium. And they came back after we had a 10-point lead. Sounds familiar? Unfortunately, it does. But yeah, that was a great moment. Wallace, what's going on, sir? Good to see you. Hope everything's doing all right. That one Falcon fan, what is going on? He said, my favorite moments were when we beat Rodgers in the final game in the Georgia Dome, the recent Panthers-Falcons game. Yeah, and Matty Ice's first game. Yeah, Matty Ice's first game, the first pass of his career. Michael Jenkins for the touchdown. That was a really good moment. You talking about the recent Panthers-Falcons game? I'm sure you're talking about the recent home game. The one where dude takes off his helmet and gives us a second chance to win the game. I thought that was very kind of him to lose his mind and do that. And we happened to be at that game as well. So you went from sadness to, again, a euphoric moment because dude couldn't hit an extra point. Albeit it was a 48-yard extra point. So yeah, that's definitely a good one. Definitely. Winston in the house, what's going on? Everybody, like you said, everybody hit the chat, hit the like button. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hope everything is going well. James in the house, what's up, cuz? Said, I remember that game in 78, cousin. I was a senior in high school. Yeah, man. And again, back then, y'all have to remember the Falcons had very few high moments. I know we had the one winning season there in 72 or 73, 9-5. But other than that, we really didn't have a lot of big moments. So we were kind of angling our way towards the playoffs, trying to sneak in as a wild card. The Rams were still dominating the division at that time. So for us to get a wild card, and a matter of fact, I think that was the first year they added the second wild card, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that was you had the three divisions then. It was only three, and we were in the West, and you had the 3 division winners and the 2 wild cards. 2 wild cards would play each other wild card weekend and then go into the next week. And actually, we should have won that next week against Dallas. We knocked out Roger Staubach. And of course, here comes the punter. Danny White comes in and beats us that year. But yeah, that 78 game was very memorable. Big time, big time, big time. Travis in the house. What's going on, Travis? How you doing? I'm trying to get this little stupid gnat on the screen. Sorry about that, y'all. Y'all like, what is he doing? He's taking us out. No, that was a big gnat. And that was a big gnat, and I had to get him. Sorry, y'all. Travis said, good evening, Uncle Steve. My favorite Falcon moment has to be the Julio touchdown against Green Bay in the NFC Championship. The roof came off. The roof came off of the dome on that play. Yes. In the seats, 24-zip halftime. Julio had a little toe tap touchdown right before halftime. Green Bay fans already looking like they had lost their best friend. Green Bay gets the ball. They go 3 and out. And on the second play, I think we ran a Devonta play, the first one. And it was the same play they did earlier in the year when Julio caught the pass against Carolina. And Julio kind of drags across the middle and the safety didn't follow in time. It was the same exact play. Go back and look at the Carolina play when Julio caught the ball against, I think it was Bradbury. I forgot who it was. For Carolina. It was the same exact play. He did that play, and I can't remember what the scrub's name from Green Bay was. I know he was a backup, and he couldn't keep up with Julio. And to your point, not only was it so deafening in there, when Julio crosses the line, have y'all ever seen those games in the last minute where you start seeing the fans go up the aisle? I swear, 70% of the little bit of Green Bay fans that did come to the game, they were gone. 31-zip, like 1 minute into the third quarter, after halftime, those Green Bay fans were gone. That was probably one of the best feelings to see them. I got some video of that somewhere, so I got to check that out. Terry said, where were you and Station at Brian? Basic and AIT Fort Sill. Then I went to Fort Lewis, 88 to 92, with a little bit of Desert Storm mixed in there. And then I went to Baumholder for 2 years, probably like 2.5 years, and then got out the military, ETS'd at Fort Benning. So I traveled. But during the time of that particular game, it was funny because that was we had just gotten back from Kuwait. Well, really Saudi, more than Kuwait. We were in Saudi. And we had just gotten back that summer. Falcons were hot that year, and Hammer was all over the place and all that stuff. So that was a big year that year for us, especially coming back in. And the Braves were hitting on that year. Braves, that was the first year of the Braves run. Fierce ATL lady, how are you, ma'am? Good to see you in the house. Thank you for joining us on Uncle Steve's Lounge again, if you don't mind. Don't forget to hit the like button. We are talking about your favorite moments in Falcons history. I want to know them. We've all been talking about the future and what's going to happen, and that's super important. In a couple of weeks, we're going to deep dive into all of that. We're going to be talking about training camp, what's going on, what's not going on, all that stuff. But today, I want to put you in the Wayback Machine. What was the moment? What was that moment that you can remember that you said, you know what? Oh, I'm down with this team. And we're just going through some of those moments. Some of you guys share a lot of those moments with me. Wallace says another good moment was when we was the first team with Vic as quarterback defeat the Packers in a playoff game on the road late in December at their place. Absolutely. I remember that game. I was at work that night, and I was ticked off that I wasn't able to stay at home and watch it. But I remember watching it, and I said to myself, because they kept saying, "Oh, the Green Bay has never lost a game at Lambeau Field, oh, Lambeau Field," and all that crap. And Mike Vick came in there and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna stop that nonsense now." And they went in there and pretty much controlled that game. Pretty much start to finish. Good job from the Falcons. I do remember that. And that was one of the signature wins in Falcons history. That was a big one. Out of your Falcon mind, what's going on? John and Mike in the house. Y'all make sure y'all check them out on Out of Your Falcon Mind podcast. Those guys do a great job lining things up. I think I saw on Twitter, which I rarely look at, but I did today, and I happened to see them put back up the 10 stages of a Falcon fan. I know Mike's very creative of talking about how we fans react. That's some good stuff. Y'all check Out of Your Falcon Mind out if you get a chance. Evening Unk, definitely Morton's kick, like Lyric's mom said. Vic running off against the Vikings. I'm sorry. Yes, that was a good one. Julio's 300-yard game, which I just spoke about. Debo stoning Cam at the goal line and smashing the Packers in the NFC Championship, to name a few. I know we talked about the Julio play that was very similar to the play that he ran to kind of stretch out the Packers game, and fortunate and blessed enough to be at both of those games. And that was another game. That game ended up being closer than we thought. He mentioned another moment of that game where Debo hit Cam at the goal line and sent Cam out of the game. That put Cam out of the game. Enter Derek Anderson. We were up 3 touchdowns at the time. Derek Anderson comes back, scores back-to-back touchdowns and back-to-back 2-point conversions. And then the Falcons on the very next play, everybody thought the Falcons were going to say, "Oh, let's try to run it out." Nope. Kyle Shanahan said, "I got something for you." And he pulled out that little drag route, and Julio went across the middle, took that ball, and smoked those guys down the field. That was an awesome play. And then, of course, the Vic run against the Vikings in overtime. Great play. 2002. Just when people were kind of getting the feel of what the Mike Vick experience was all about. That was an awesome play, and a play that I know a lot of people talk about to this day in history. A play that you always see come up when you talk about Mike Vick highlights. Hal is in the house. What's up, Hal? That kick against the Vikings to send us to the chip. Below zero up here in New York. Kick went through, and I ran out of my house with my Falcon flag wrapped around my shoulders like a kid on Christmas morning. That's what they do, man. That's what those moments do to you. And especially that moment. I would be hard-pressed to say up until that moment in 98, I don't think we had any other signature moments in our franchise until that. Because if you think about it, prior to that, we had only won, aside of the San Francisco game we won the week before. If I'm not mistaken, let's see, we beat the Too Legit to Quit game. I always call it that. Sorry, y'all. And the Philadelphia game, the wild card game in 78. So really, that was our signature moment up until that time. So that was just an awesome moment, man. How can you not love it? Gotta love it. Big John in the house. What is going on, sir? Hope everything's going well for you. Lyric's mom says when CP killed the Aints Dreams in the Super Dump in 2021. That was so funny. I have a mutual friend of mine who is diehard Saints, and we have a gentleman's bet every year about each game and how it's going to go. And there could be possible monetary funds going on during that exchange. I remember before we got the ball, he was like, man, you might as well go ahead and send that money now. And lo and behold, here's the CP play. He throws it up the sideline, and CP catches the ball, and I'm texting him and going crazy. And next thing I know, a couple of seconds later, I see him shooting the money to me, to my account. That was just a glorious moment in itself. And don't side note to that. Mike Davis, who I got love for, homeboy, Stevenson High School, always going to support the homeboys. But remember, he almost gave that ball right back. Remember the next play, they gave it to Mike Davis, and Mike Davis literally fumbled the ball, and we lucked up and landed on it again. That could have been disaster on that. But yes, that was a great play. Great play. John said, might not stay here with you, but here, now it's all good, brother. Keep on as long as you can. We just hanging in here, talking old times, talking some Falcon memories in here. Bags, what's up there? Said when Alford caught that pick six in the Super Bowl, I swear it was over. I've told that story over and over again. Obviously, I sat through the whole Super Bowl during 2017. I watched one highlight, I think, of it later that year in 2017. As soon as Alford ran that pick six back, I turned off the TV. And since then, so even these moments when, NFL Network throws these little things on Twitter and all these things happen and people try to replay the games, I turn away. I can't do it. I can't do it to myself. Because I think my emotion is more angry than sad. I hate to say, it's a sadness you didn't win. I just remember that Super Bowl at the end, we had a nice sized party at our house. It was so silent. It was so silent. It was, when I say silent, and everybody knows I'm rah when we win. And I almost think people thought I was going to have a viral moment where I was going to tear up stuff and whatever. And I just sat there. What could I do? And also a side note, I had, don't get into a lot of drinking myself. No problem. Y'all do what y'all do. But I bought this big bottle of pink champagne. And I had it in a bucket of ice. And I put it in the garage. And I was ready to bring it out. You realize that stayed in that bucket of ice until we moved, which was months later. And that's why I didn't want to bring up Super Bowl moments, but that's all good. John Higgins says, from childbirth, Steve, been here since they got here. Oh yeah, brother. Oh yeah, absolutely. Winston says Grady's 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. William Moore slamming the Rams tight end. Oh yeah, that was pretty good. Oh, Willie Moore, man. Willie, I'd say again, that's one of those guys that you just say, man, I wish the injuries would have. And that's why I say Jesse Bates, arguably the last great safety we had was really William Moore, in my opinion. I think he was going to really be good. Matt Town Dirty in the house. What's going on, Matt Town? Good to see you. Also, MW, the franchise player. I see you in here, brother. Good to see you. How you doing? Hope everything's going well. David Starks in the house. What's up, man? Say a little late, Steve. What's going on with you? And what are we talking about? We are talking about great moments in Falcons history. We're taking a deep breath from all of the who's going to make the roster, who's a better quarterback, all that stuff. And just looking back fondly on these Falcon moments. I just want to know those moments that you guys and gals think were your favorite moments in Falcons history. I mentioned my 5 at the beginning. I'll probably go back to them in a little bit and rehash them. But a lot of you have already mentioned some of those moments. So we'll go back and replay those. Matt Town 30 said Matt Ryan's comeback at the end of the Chicago game. That's a good one. That was really the one when the Matty Ice moniker kind of caught on a little bit. And when he came back and threw a couple of passes to the sidelines and really brought this team out, one of many wins he had that brought us to that place in 2008 when nobody thought, let alone have a winning record, but make the playoffs. Travis says, Roddy White burning Richard Sherman and putting them on ice skates. I'm going to tell you something. That was so funny because when I see that play and you see Richard, Richard Sherman, that was eating him alive. As he goes over and gives him the little golf clap, that was eating him up. And Richard Sherman he has not had super great games against the Falcons in the big games. Now, he had a couple of regular seasons where he was okay, but in playoff situations, Richard Sherman has really been dog, if you think about it. He was dog in that game. He was dog in the game when we beat him here in the Dome. And actually, that same year, if y'all remember the Super Bowl year of 2016, that was also the time we went up to Seattle and really should have won that game because they should have called pass interference. Sherman basically held Julio's arm back after Sherman had been burnt twice in that same game. That was the game. Go back if you have, and I was trying to remember what it was. Get NFL Game Pass. That was what it used to be called, but it's NFL Plus. That was the game that Seattle jumped out to like a 2-touchdown lead. And then we scored the next 3 touchdowns. Richard Sherman got burnt. He went on the sideline, and the guys had to kind of rally around him because he was acting like a pompous behind on the sideline, like he was the best cornerback in the history of the world. I just remember moments like that, like a spoiled kid. Lyrics Mom says 2017 when Deion Jones picked off a Breeze to steal that game. I think the final score was 2017. I think it might have been. Yeah, I think it might have been. And the funny thing was, I was working. That was a Thursday night game. That was the Color Rush game. Because remember, everybody else debuted their Color Rushes in 2016, and that was our Color Rush game in 2017. It was Thursday night. My son and my wife were at the game, and I remember, the phones weren't working as well as far as watching the game. It was like 3 minutes behind, and I remember them calling me from the stadium. Like, yeah, we got it. I was like, what happened? What happened? The Deion caught the interception. And that was pure just artistry, the way he went up and got that ball. Wasn't that the game that Sean Payton did the choke sign to Devonta? Wasn't that the same game? I think it was. But yeah, that was awesome. Out of Falcon Mind also says, one of my earliest Falcon memories, I think it was McKyer, picked off the ball around the 50, gave it to Deion, and took it to the house. Yeah, that was that. Like I said, they were doing a lot that year. They were extra. When Deion and McKyer them were back there that particular season, they were very extra, but they were very good. Deion had them boys on a different level. I think they all raised their game up because of him. So that was some good stuff. Bag says, I can remember winning the NFC Championship the 1998 season. I was 4 years old in pre-K, but can remember all the hype around the city of Warner Robins. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the first one. And nobody picked us to win. Nobody. Everybody, and if you hear the the stories, the game was in Miami. Denver had already won their game. They had started spray painting, absolutely no lie. They had started spray painting the field after halftime of the Minnesota game because Minnesota was kind of dominating Atlanta. They had to stop what they were doing and repaint the field. They already had Denver and Minnesota down in the Orange Bowl all during that game. Absolute true story. So nobody thought. I also remember, for those of you who are South Park fans, there's an episode there where, and South Park was real good for, like, something would happen in pop culture and it would be like the next week or the week after that it would come up with it. And one of the guys had, I forgot the whole scenario. One of the guys had like fallen asleep and woke up and he said, well, what year is it? It's such and such and such. He's like, who's in the Super Bowl? The Atlanta Falcons. He was like, what? Oh, like he was lying. I know I'm messing it up, but if you're a South Park fan, you know what I'm talking about. MW, the franchise player, says Julio doing the Panthers filthy for 300. That was a big game too. And I'll even go as far to say I thought, even though he had less yards, I think he was more efficient in the Green Bay game. But yeah, he was on another level in that Carolina game. And you think about it, he probably could have done a lot better if he wanted to. John Harris in the house. What's going on, John? Says when Sean Collins ran over Ronnie Lott. Okay. David says 91 season, beating those bums in New Orleans in the playoffs. Always great to beat your rivals in those games. Big John says Steve being right down in New Orleans for the win. That put us on the map. That was one of the 5 that I brought up earlier in the broadcast, Big John. Yes, sir. And that was the moment I think I really kind of said, oh, this team gonna really do some things. And of course, we had the blip year in 2000. I'm not 2000. In 1979, everybody got hurt. And then 1980, we brought it back together. John says when Dion caught a pass from Herbert and Bobby Hebert. Who was our Herbert? Bobby Hebert, and took it to the house against Dallas. Bobby Hebert, man, people forget about him, man. He was actually a pretty good little tie-in that particular year that we made the playoffs, the Jeff George year. The Apostle Vincent B. Irvin. What is going on, Apostle? I would say it's about time for all the Falcon fans to brush up on their Dirty Bird dance moves. Hey, I can do that, man. I get a couple of little dance moves in there if you want me to. We could do that. We can absolutely do that. I think we're going to do a lot of dancing this year. That's for sure. I think we will. You going to join us, my brother? I hope you do. David says, really, he tackled Julio at midfield. I was ready to jump through the TV and choke the ref for not calling that pass interference. Yeah, you're talking about the Green Bay play. But again, he was what was that cat's name? But he got burnt left and right during that playoff game. But luckily, Julio had the strength enough to get out of that. So. Big Chuck in the house. What's going on, man? Say what's good, Steve. It's stunned silence. We were all in shock. On to the positive. Allen Rawson's kickoff return in 05 for a touchdown. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Oh, yeah. RG3 getting the welcome rookie treatment. Yes, sir. That was Sean Witherspoon on that. And all the Breeze sacks. Anytime, man. Anytime you can put Breeze on his behind. It's all good, man. It's all good. Big false start in the house. What's going on, man? Say, you on fire lately. Thank you, brother. Say, got that itch for some football. That's the plan. That's the purpose. To get us oiled up, get the joints rolling. So by the time we hit that Carolina game in September, we gonna be on fire for this team, man. That is it. That is it. John Harris says when Bobby Hebert found Mathis crossing the field in the dome for a touchdown to beat the 49ers. Big Bobby Hebert fan, John Harris is. I see. King Richie in the house. What's going on, man? Good to see you, brother. Thank you for joining us in here. Out of your Falcon Mind says, man, South Park got away with some of. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Don't they got away with a lot. It's still rolling, I think. If I'm not mistaken. They're still rolling. Anthony Moss says, what about Adrian Claiborne's 6-sack game, week 10 against the Cowgirls was a game to remember. I was at that game as well. And my son, who is very, when it comes to the Falcons, is his favorite team. He's up there right now in Charlotte, repping them, saying they dogging them out for. Of course, he's going in enemy territory up there. That particular game was here, and I don't know what that guy's name was. I don't know whether he was an XFL player or practice squad player or whatever it was, but Adrian Claiborne basically earned his salary. If I'm not mistaken, he ended up with 8 sacks for the year, and 6 of them were in that one game, so he only got 2 for the rest of the game. So that was pretty that was pretty messed up there. Oh man. Travis says the Devontae Freeman 70-yard touchdown against the Saints in 2016. I love that game because that was the final game, final regular season game in the Dome. And the funny thing was about that. And Lord have mercy, I know Tidy watching this because he's probably singing hallelujah. But I always thought Tevin Coleman was the quick guy. And he is, don't get me wrong. But man, I remember, I think Drew Brees them had hit, did they get a field goal to play before? I think they hit a field goal to play before. And the very first play, man, Devonta hits that hole. And I said to myself, we were in the stand like, what? I didn't think he had that kind of speed. I know he had some shiftiness, but I didn't think he had that speed, man. But either he had that speed or New Orleans sucked in defense that year, which they did. They were not good that particular year. But yes, I remember that. Matt Town Dirty said you took the words right out of my mouth regarding the Green Bay game. Yeah, that Green Bay game was pretty awesome. David says Vic causing 2 Viking defenders to run into each other to end that game. Yes, the overtime game. Also in Minneapolis, boy, they can't win for losing with us up when we go up there. That's why I was so ticked off when we lost the playoff game against Philly, because we were going back to the scene of the crime, and I think we were going to put a trifecta on Minnesota again. I just don't think Minnesota has our number when it comes to that. Lyrics Mom says Mohamed Sanu still in the Green Bay game in week 8. Oh man, had them cheese heads looking crazy in the face. Dude was clutch for us. There was a question the other day. I want to say it was last week where somebody says, do you bring back Sanu? Because Sanu had a little interview. He was like, yeah, I'll come back. Blah, blah, blah. And I say no, because I think we're past the part where we need to go back and get relics. That's what got us in trouble the first time, holding on to the past, holding on to see what he did in 16, remember? And it's not that time anymore. But I digress and say, yes, in 2016, I'm here to tell you, Sanu, and remember the situation with Sanu, y'all. Just the year before, Shanahan and Roddy White, remember the free Roddy thing they were doing on 92.9? And everybody was ticked off because Roddy wasn't getting in the game and Roddy wasn't being involved in the plays, the little game where Shanahan threw the ball to him 3 times in a row and we didn't get a first down. And it was kind of unpopular when Sanu came because everybody was like, well, shoot, you just got a second string to AJ Green and you bringing him here to Atlanta. I mean, what are you doing? That's not going to help us at all. And Sanu was quiet as it kept. Sanu was a main cog, I should say. Main cog in that system for the Falcons in 2016. The things he did and this particular play which she's talking about. And remember, we were trying to methodically move down the field because you didn't want to have too much time just in case you scored too quick. But boy, that you go back and look at that pass, Matt zipped that thing and Sanu caught it and dragged that leg. And oh man, that was a great play. Great play from him. Bag says that late last minute screen to Julio versus Philly. Yes, that was at that game too. Matty Ice to Roddy White deep bomb against Carolina. Can't remember the year for each play though. The Carolina play was 2012. That was the get the F off the field game. That was that one. And Prince Nakamura, was that who he beat up there playing safety? Forgot Nakamura, whatever his name was. But he beat him. Matt threw the ball. It might some would argue that was the longest pass Matt ever threw. But he threw it and Roddy caught it. And it ended up pushing us to victory in that particular game. That was 2012. And then the Julio screen and people missed on that one. Jake Matthews came out on that particular play. That was at home. That was was that Monday night or Sunday night? I think it was Monday night. Monday night game. And man, Matthews came out there and blew up the cornerback on that particular play. Man, that was awesome. That was awesome. False Start says 2016 versus the Broncos. Yes, most beautiful regular season game. I can remember, if y'all remember that game, that was also the game that they thought Tevin Coleman, he had the sickle cell trait. And they were afraid that game. Remember that it was with the altitude. They were afraid that was going to be a problem. Y'all remember that? And Tevin Coleman went out there and basically was almost a one-man show, killing Denver that year. Because remember, Denver was coming off of the Super Bowl that particular season. So that was awesome for him to be able to do that. That was good stuff. Oh, yeah. Nice game. Ghost Peppers, what's up, man? Ghost Pepper says, what's good, Falcons fam? Favorite moment, Morton Anderson solidifying our spot in the 98 Super Bowl. A lot of people are going back to that. So that's a cool thing, man. And again, if you're, be it far from me, because I see a lot of people call themselves telling people what their fandom is these days. So I don't want to be that guy or gal. But if you don't have a little bit of feeling after that kick Morton Anderson did, if you were around and you didn't have a little bit of inkling of, woo, to go to that first Super Bowl and you were a double-digit underdog, I mean, that was that whole thing. And for those of you that don't remember, this was prior to 9/11. And you could go to the airport and go try to, because then you could just go through security and just go to the gate. And everybody was trying to go to the airport to see the Falcons come in. And I remember the scene on that, and they were going into a special gate, but folks had gone down there to try to welcome the Falcons back. They were talking about on the radio, and I think they were on 680 The Fan, or maybe 790 The Zone, one of the two. They were on one of those channels back then, and they were telling everybody, they're going to be coming back. on this. They're on a charter. They're going to be coming in on this gate. It was just awesome. Awesome. False Start also says Vic diving for the touchdown to beat the Pampers. Yeah. Still to this day, I don't know how his knees didn't touch the ground on that play. The play he kind of extended that people call the Superman play, where he extended over and beat the Panthers on that. How do you beat that, man? How do you beat that? That was just one of those superhuman efforts that he had, and that's what made him the athlete that he was, man. That was awesome. David Stark says the Philly game in 2012. Yeah, that throw that hit Julio in stride up the rail and Julio running away from effectively ending the best corner in the league debate. Yeah, he was kind of garbage after that. True story, absolute true story. That particular game, we had the luxury of being up in the little box area. No kidding. Right next to us in the box was Snoop Dogg and what's the actor's name? And it just hit me. Not Cuba Gooding. I'm gonna think about what his name is. And they were all there in their Philadelphia representing jerseys. And that was just, to me, one of the best moments ever, beating them cats on that game. Absolutely. Ghost Pepper says Matt Ryan beat Chicago. Yep, with no time limit. We just talked about that one. That's a very good one. Absolutely. All right, Connor Martella, what's up, man? Says Julio Jones head topping Luke Kuechly and snapping their perfect record in the same game. And I remember, if you remember the scenario for that, not only were the Panthers kind of roughshotting everybody that season, we were only 2 weeks removed from getting shut out in Carolina. Y'all remember that? And I remember, if you go back and watch, probably the game that made me dislike Cam Newton even more, because they were winning the game already. Crowd was going crazy. And again, if I was a Carolina fan, I probably wouldn't care. Cam has this big cheese-eating grin on his face, and he's running down the sideline. Go look at it. Please go look at it. 2015. He's running down the sideline, and he's cheesing for the crowd. And he goes down, and he's doing all of this. And then he goes and runs back down to the sideline, and he's just like a little kid. I was so pissed off. And so nobody thought the Falcons had a chance in that game. They had just beat them by 30-something. And then came back, and Atlanta, Matt Ryan, he waved up, let me go for my man, hit Julio, and the rest is history. Absolutely. Chuck, thank you very much. Yeah, y'all remember to put them likes in here in the video. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for hanging out with your uncle. Good job. Thank y'all for coming. Appreciate it. Dexter, what's up, Dex? Dex says, I like that year we beat Denver in Atlanta when Peyton came. Yes, he came in here, and we picked them off 3 times in the first quarter. I know McClain was the last one, and I'm trying to think who got the first 2 interceptions. But yes, we intercepted them 3 times in like the first, I'll say the first 3 possessions that they got them in. So yeah, that was a big. And the sad thing was, we almost lost that game because they almost came back and beat us in that game. But yes, that particular game when Peyton was giving away gifts that particular game. I was going back for those of you who didn't see my top five, and my top five are, I need to take this off of this sticker. Let me see this right here. There we go. Top five were 1978. Falcons beat the Saints on Big Ben Wright. I spoke about that earlier today, and that was the first year that Falcons clinched the playoff position. It was a wild card position. They were 9-7. They went on to beat Philadelphia in the wild card game and lost to Dallas eventually. Not the one that was here in Fulton County. We went to Dallas and lost that game there, even though we played them tough. 1991, Chris Miller, everybody talks about the interception at the end, but Chris Miller threw the 61-yard pass to Michael Haynes to put us ahead in the game and pretty much solved the game by the end. Saints couldn't muster up anything afterward. 1998, the other Minneapolis Miracle, where Morton Anderson kicks us into the Super Bowl. We talked about that moment a lot. In my opinion, I think I haven't heard this one get talked about a lot, but the 2012 game when the Falcons were up by, I think it was 20. Were they up by 20? It was close to 20. And Seattle came back, took the lead, and then Falcons drive down in a couple of seconds and get in Matt Bryant field goal range, and Matt Bryant kicks us into our first home NFC championship game that year against Seattle. I remember Seattle went on the next year to win the Super Bowl with that particular team. And finally, Matt Ryan's finest hour as the Falcons rout the Packers at home to earn their second Super Bowl berth. And the funny thing was, I was talking about everybody who talks about the Julio catch, and I remember somebody was saying that the roof came off. I hear people say that, but man, I don't know if I heard that place get any louder when Matt Ryan ran that bad boy in from about 15 yards out. And the MVP, I had never heard the MVP chant as loud for anybody as I did that particular day. But you think about what Matt Ryan did, that for all of the stuff that everybody, that some fair, some unfair, for all the stuff that we talk about with Matt Ryan was at his professional peak during that playoff run. If you think about the things he did against Seattle and the things he did against Green Bay, and keeping it real, the things he did against New England in the Super Bowl. I don't think I had seen a postseason probably since the first Eli Manning run that he had, and he had the extra wild card game. But you start talking about somebody. No, you know who else had a good run? Kurt Warner had a good run in the playoffs too. He was actually pretty good. But you think about what Matt did that particular year, folks. We can debate all day about whether he was this, whether he was that. But on that night in January in the Georgia Dome on a stormy night, Matt Ryan was absolutely the best player in the NFL. Yes, I didn't say the Falcons. I didn't say the NFC. That particular day, he was the best player in the NFL. 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdowns. Go back and look at, hey. False Start say, oh, we were so fired. Yeah, that was just awesome. JJ the Great, man, what's going on, brother? Said my favorite game is the Seattle. I just talk about that. The Seattle Seahawks division game, not from 2012. Oh, okay, but 2016. My apologies. I was saying all season that year, if we played them again, we smoked them and we got our chance, and we did. And JJ, I was just talking about that too, the injustice that we got that particular game. If y'all remember that, Talolo caught like a 40-yard pass down the field that particular game. Russell Wilson was lucky that game. Richard Sherman looked awful, and he even looked more awful when he got to the championship game. Everybody was, oh, Earl Thomas said, no, y'all still had everybody else. Cam Chancellor was still out there. Michael Bennett was still out there. Richard Sherman was still out there. Bobby Wagner was still out there. Please don't make excuses. The majority of the folks was out there. And they were acting like that was the reason they lost. No. Falcons really showed up that game. And that's another moment when you talk about loud moments in the dome. When Russell Wilson tripped and fell moments, man, those moments that bring us together. We could talk about it for years. We still talk about it. Still talk about that. JJ also says 2016 NFC Championship game, my second favorite. Absolutely, it's my favorite. I for sentimental reasons as well. You know, I didn't get a chance to share those kind of wins going to the game with my dad, but I did get an opportunity with my son to be at that game. And I know even if the Falcons, and I hope and pray we get further, but even if we don't, that's the pinnacle of the home season. You finished your home season on top. Yes, you want to finish the Super Bowl, which is usually at a neutral. The home season at home. How many times when you win the game are you staying afterwards? And the whole crowd stayed long enough to see that game. I think I want to say, see if I can pull this up, y'all. I might be able to pull that video up. I might be able to pull that video up for y'all for the video I had for the championship game. Let's see if I can grab that real quick. Let me see. Videos. I'll see if I can pull that up for y'all. 1 second. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to see if I can pull this up. And I'm going to see if that, yeah, they'll let me play it. I'm going to share this with y'all. Let's see. Hold on. Window. Here we go. All right. This was the playoffs. This was the end of the playoffs. See if I can get that screen. I don't know if that helped. That was the Green Bay game. That was the Georgia Dome. That was everybody going crazy. Y'all can hear. Hopefully, y'all can hear the song in there. And then this was, I think, the Green Bay fans going home. Look at all those seats there were Green Bay fans. That right there, that was all Green Bay fans. Look at it. Some of the, I mean, just crazy, man. Just crazy. So yeah, so again, things that I just vibe. But we need to get that feeling back. That's why it's important this year to make sure we get our fandom. We have not had, and this is one of the things that I think people misconstrue. when I'm talking about some of the things we have going on with the team right now, it's not saying that I won't accept some of the players we have, the skill level of the players, what we think. It's just the fact that we don't have time after these 5 years to wait around for moments like that. I want that moment back tomorrow. I want that moment back yesterday. And that's why my impatience is growing when I see some moves that I say, are we sure that's the right one? This isn't saying we're not caring about scratch. It's not saying we don't like what's in place. It's saying, okay, but is this the optimal decision? That's what this is all about. That's when you hear what I'm talking about these days. I want those moments back. I don't know about y'all. I miss those moments. That wasn't that long ago. But then again, maybe it was a while ago. But we need those moments back. And when I hear people saying, be so negative, stop being so negative. No, it's not being negative. We haven't had reason to be positive. If you notice, none of the moments I'm talking about are post 2016. Not one. Not one moment that I've mentioned is post 2016 season. So this is why I love to bring up these things, because I'm looking at the fandom and I'm looking at the words and I'm trying to read them with the same passion that you all feel for this team and the passion that I feel for this team. It's not fun to be sitting home in December talking about whether we're going to have a top 10 pick or not. The last 5 years, we've been sitting here on the last couple of weeks talking about, well, if they need to look, they can't win because we won't be in the top 10. Screw that. I want to be in the, hey, can we get a home game this year in the playoffs? What are our chances? And that's why when I talk about these things, my passion and I don't want anybody to get it misconstrued. I'm a huge Falcon fan with a lot more passion than I'm actually showing on this screen right now. But I can't tolerate this acceptance of losing, this acceptance of, well, we got to let them grow. No, screw that. I see other franchises turning around in 1 year. And we just haven't done that. So I'm all right, rant over with. Let's get back to the good moments. Smart Ride in the house. What's going on, man? Said not a Matt Ryan fan, but at all. But Kyle Shanahan unlocked that man's ability that year, and that was the best quarterback in the league. Reason why Kyle challenged Matt and didn't just kiss his butt. And Smart Ride, my buddy John Harris, who was in the chat earlier, he always says it. They got in his behind. He had been living nice. Think about it. 2012, you got to the NFC Championship game in Atlanta. You're living large. You sign a huge contract the next year. You're the king of Atlanta at that time, 2012, 13. Atlanta, I don't think it's an argument about that. I don't think it was any other more popular athlete at that time. And you kind of probably got a little fat cat syndrome. And Kyle Shanahan came in there and said, hey, I want to win. Forget what you did in 08 to 12. I'm trying to win now. Why do you think they brought me in here? They brought me in here because y'all ain't going nowhere. So, yeah, you're right. JJ the Great said, Talolo stiff-armed. Oh, yes. Stiff-armed the Seattle player into oblivion. Oh, yes. I remember that. Oh, that was matter of fact, I think that was the last touchdown drive for that. I remember they showed that on the screen. And you know how it is when you're at a game and they have something on the screen and everybody at the same time like, whoo. And Talolo just pushed them out of the way. Marshawn Lynch style. And knocked them over. JJ says, do you think the Benz could be as loud as the Georgia Dome if we host the playoff game? I think it could. I think it could. And matter of fact, I think Alabama has come in there and showed you what a loud crowd could be like. So I do think we're going in the right direction, but we still got a little ways to go. But it could be, JJ. We got to fill it up too. The thing ain't filled up. We hadn't filled that thing up since 17. No, I'm not exaggerating. No, I'm not exaggerating. We have not. Only time you see that bad boy filled in is if University of Georgia or Taylor Swift is in the Benz. That's it. Other than that, you don't see it filled. And there we go. Liz Mom says, Keanu Neal hit on that Aints receiver, the last regular season game of the season we went to. Yes, I remember that. Boy, he ain't been right ever since. His name, Willie Snead. That's him. And Eric Harris hit on Robbie Anderson. Yeah, Eric had that. That's the first highlight since she broke the streak. That's the first highlight post 2016. But yes, I remember Willie Snead. Willie Snead had a decent cup of coffee in Baltimore. He wasn't a huge stay, but he had a nice little thing there when you think about it. Atlanta Bird Gang in the house. Brother Tidy's in here. Y'all make sure y'all take care of my brother. Subscribe to the channel. Like the videos. That's my partner in crime, man, for a long time. And the sad thing is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think Tidy and I have had the pleasure of kind of interacting during a playoff season. And that's sad. I'm looking forward, hopefully this year, that we can do that. I really need that. I really need some of you all that I have just migrated to in the last 5 or 6 years for us to share in that passion, in that euphoria. I'm looking forward to that. He says 1991, the one and only playoff game versus the Aints in the Super Bowl. The final play of the game, we caught an interception and we lateraled the ball backwards and scored a touchdown. The refs cheated us. That, and I keep looking back at that. It didn't look like that ball had gone for us. And I'm not even going, they didn't like that showboat. They didn't like that showboat stuff. And I remember after that game, if you remember, go back and listen to the game. And I think that was Dan Dierdorf that was on the. They need to. It's just silly for them to be doing all this and do. And they interviewed Dion after that game, and I never forget him. He said, "That's how we did it all year." And if you go back to that, look at that 1991 season. That's what they did. One person get the ball. If you figure you can lateral it to somebody else and get it, then let them get it and let them get the ball up. Let them do that. Yes, that was they were refs did cheat us on that. Atlanta supporter in the house. What's going on, man? Say, Uncle Steve, one day the Atlanta Falcons will win multiple Super Bowls. I hope so. I hope so. JJ the Great says 2016 was my senior year of high school, and I had a Packers fan friend talking, what, to me all season. He had nothing to say to me after the NFC Championship game. No, quite honestly, Green Bay was kind of lucky to get past Dallas because I just knew in my heart of hearts we were going to be playing Dallas. Remember, the Seattle game was Saturday night. So we beat Seattle on Saturday night, and not a lot of people were thinking Green Bay was going to win because Green Bay was missing some folks too, remember? And they lucked up and beat. And I say lucked up, but, Dallas was a young team that year. Dallas was number one. when you start really going back and looking at it, yeah, Dallas kind of had missed opportunity right there. That was probably their best chance to go to the Super Bowl. I'll argue that if we had gone to Dallas, I'm not saying we couldn't have won, but that was going to be a much different game than the Green Bay game. Dallas defense still wasn't as stout, but Zeke was at his peak. You know, that was something else. Landenberg says, right, Steve, it's not negativity. We're just very passionate Falcon fans, and we want the best for the Birds. It's tough love, if nothing else. Man, dude, how can you? I don't even know how else to put that. And I think the problem was I've heard this thing about, well, you're not being positive. You're not being positive because you're being critical. No. If anything, the critique is saying, we need to get better here. Hopefully we get better in this. It's not negative. It's you wanting your team to get better. If you are to a person to look at our roster, as improved as it's been from last year or two, is it still the ideal roster? And the answer is no. There are still a few positions that I'm concerned about. Linebacker, wide receiver. Still not quite convinced about the center. Hopefully, Bergeron is the answer at left guard. We don't know. Some of us thought Mayfield was going to be the answer at left guard. We did. Stop lying. Probably can go back and see. Richie Grant's going to be great in his position. So we really don't know. So, and I don't want people to jump off the horse when we say, you know what? What did I see? I saw it on a post. I'm trying to think what was a post or Twitter. This is the most talented Atlanta Falcons team ever. Forever. No. It's the most talented team because of that Eddie Murphy skit about the cracker. You hadn't had any food in a long time, so that saltine tastes like a Ritz. So when they're putting these guys on here, they look great. They look the part, but we got to see what it's going to do on the field. I do think they're going to be better than the last couple of years, but I'm just saying, folks, you got to want better for your team. You can't make criticism like it's negative. It's not negative. It's to get my team better. Chuck said, agreed. We've been like zombies. Our expectation have been in the basement. Yep. Atlanta supporter says Arthur Smith going to be hard on Desmond Ridder. He better be. Titus says first regular season game ever at the Benz was packed and very loud. Yes, and that's what I was saying. Since 2000, and if I says 2016, the first year, that was it. That game we opened against Green Bay, that was packed, loud. We had a good game that day. But really, that season, we had a couple of good games that were packed. And ever since then, matter of fact, I almost take that back. I think the 2018 game against the Saints, when we basically lost our secondary in the one game against the Saints, the one that Drew Brees scored the touchdown to win. I'm trying to think, was that overtime or at the end? Where he won the game? That might have been the last time I seen the Benz packed for a Falcon game. Retro G in the house. What's good? Well, how you doing now? Good to see you in the house, Retro. JJ the Great says, I still think we beat Dallas in 16. MVP Ryan versus rookie Dak while our defense was playing great in their start. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying we wouldn't have won. I think our offense was basically unstoppable that year. Even in the playoffs. Even in the Super Bowl up to the fourth quarter. I think our offense couldn't be stopped. Literally. Couldn't be stopped. We just didn't take advantage of things when we should have. Dexter says, I think the most talented was 2012. I don't know how old you are, Dexter, so I'm not going to hold it against you. 2012 was good. 1998 was better than 12. 16 was better than 12. And I know I'm taking it back to dinosaur days. 1980 was the most talented team the Atlanta Falcons ever had. Go back and look. Offense far the most talented team ever in Falcons history. They could score. They had a nice defense. Number 1 seed, 12-4. We just screwed the pooch in the playoffs. That was the most talented team, in my opinion. 2012 was good. I'm trying to think during that run. And the 2012 team was pretty solid. You had some good defense. You still had Abe here, even though Abe got hurt. I still, in that 2000, the worst decision Mike Smith ever made as a coach was playing John Abraham. Remember, we had already clinched everything. We were 12-3, and we were number 1 seed no matter what. And we played Tampa Bay that last game of the season. And Mike Smith said he was going to play everybody. And they went out there, and Abe played, and Abe messed up his hamstring or whatever he did. And we never got a chance to see Abe at full strength. At full strength. I think he tried to play against the 40. I think he tried, but he was not full strength. If we would have rested him, could have been a different result. Lyric Smile says, I'm going to take the baby steps and just say we're going to take the division. Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'll take, listen, at this point, I'll even take it, I'll dial it back one step further. As much as I want the playoffs and I'm predicting we're going to win the division, I'll start with a winning record. Let's get some positivity into it from that aspect. Let's get it, because you can't get the fans until you get the winning going. And what's the team? The Chicago Cubs, the lovable losers. Yeah, that played good when there was no social media and you didn't see how people really felt. Yeah, you can't come with that lovable losers. Think about a team that would try to market that today. The lovable losers. That would not play well in 2023. But winning will cure it all. Absolutely will. JJ said, this is the most talented team we've had since 2017 on paper, I think. But then again, it's only on paper for now. And in the great words of John Harris, take it off the paper and put it on the field. I kind of agree with you with that, though. I do think this is set up to be the most talented team since 17 and kind of young, too. This is really a young team. You think about the little pieces we added from the veteran standpoint, most of those guys are 1 year. Young defensive players. Calais and Omenyata are probably the oldest two line. I think Omenyata is older than Grady, or maybe Grady might be older than him. I don't know. But this is a young team, so we should be able to make some hay. 2011 against the Ravens Thursday night, Roddy catching the winning touchdown. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a good win too. My son was playing. Oh man, trying to think what year was that. He was playing football, and I remember they had a football game on a Thursday night instead of Saturday of all days. And I missed that game. And that was a home game. But yeah, Roddy catching them. And it might have pushed off just a little bit. Might have pushed off just a little bit to get that touchdown. Yes, I remember that game very well. That was it. Absolutely. Hey, listen, I appreciate everybody coming in here for the Minutia on a Monday. Thank you for joining me. If you've enjoyed what you watch, please go push the like button. It don't cost you a dime, don't cost you anything. Push the like button. Tell a friend about what we're doing here in Uncle Steve's Lounge. I appreciate it. I thank everybody for joining us and sharing the memories of our Atlanta Falcons. Now let's get this thing fired up and get it rolling, y'all. 2023 is going to be a different year, one way or the other. Let's get this thing started, get the momentum pumped up. I think we can do it this year. Until then, y'all have a blessed Monday and a blessed rest of the week. If you're here in Georgia, but shoot, in 6% of the country, stay hydrated, man. This heat is no joke out here. Y'all take care of yourselves. Be blessed. Peace.